Okay, so let's carry on with the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas. So far we have looked at the first 12 of these 37, and the next set is the 5 spiritual faculties, the 5 indriyas. And these indriyas, the word indriya means something like faculty, which means something like an ability or a kind of power or a kind of something which is like a dominant force or something like that. And it is related to the word Indra. The word Indra is, or Inda in Pali, is like the Lord of the gods. Yeah, so it is a power, someone who has a power or a capability or an ability to kind of control. That's why sometimes they call controlling faculties. And this is one of the interesting things about these faculties, especially the Sat Indriya, this faculty of Sati, or the Samadhi Indriya, is that once you give rise to good states of mindfulness and Samadhi, they become very powerful feelings of being in charge of your own life. This is one of the things that happens when these things become very strong. Most of the time we are kind of in the grip of desires and all kind of defilements of the mind, and we are led around by the nose. We don't really feel in charge. We feel that the world around us is kind of leading us around. But once mindfulness becomes strong, it feels like you are in control. You no longer, these defilements are no longer pulling on you in the same way anymore. And this is one of the great benefits of mindfulness and samadhi that leads to this sense of being independent of the world outside. It's called Sati Adhipateya somewhere in the suttas. Adhipateya means like lordship or rulership. So you're ruled by Sati, by mindfulness, rather than by all these attractive, alluring things of the world. And you kind of feel you are in control of your life. You can make choices instead of actually just being pulled around by craving. What is that saying again? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is what these faculties are about. And of course, when you get to Samadhi, you have an even stronger sense of being in charge of yourself because the mind becomes very powerful at that particular point. So these are these 5 spiritual faculties, and as I mentioned before, these faculties really only become fully established when you become an Aryan. So when you become a stream mentor or on the path to stream mentoring. For other people, sometimes they are there, sometimes they are not there. It depends a little bit on the situation, depending on how your practice is going, etc. We had a nice tune going there for a second, I'm sure disappeared again. So it is therefore, sometimes the indriyas are there for a short while and then they disappear again. Because of that lack of insight into reality, it means that these things, depending on how your mind is going, how delusion is going, it will come and go a little bit. So we're all trying to approach the 5 indriyas and give rise to them to some extent, but they're not going to be established until you become an Arya. And this is what the first sutta here is about. It shows you this straight from the suttas, how it is mentioned in the suttas. So this is the connected discourses of the Buddha, the 48th chapter, sutta number 18, called Practicing. And so this is how it goes. Mendicants, there are these 5 faculties. What 5? The faculty of faith, faculty of energy, faculty of mindfulness, the faculty of immersion, and the faculty of wisdom. These are the 5 faculties. Someone who has completed and fulfilled the 5 faculties is a perfected one. If they are weaker than that, then that person might be someone who is practicing to realize the fruit of perfection. This is arahantship. A weaker, again, might be a non-returner. Still weaker, practicing to realize the fruit of non-returning. Still weaker, a once-returner. Still weaker, practicing to realize the fruit of one's returning. Still weaker, a stream mentor. Still weaker, practicing to realize the fruit of stream entry. And someone who totally and utterly lacks these 5 faculties is an outsider who belongs with the ordinary persons, I say. So there you can see the distinction that to have these 5 faculties means that you're one of these 8 noble ones. And if you're not that, then you haven't really attained, you haven't really got them yet. And the person who fully, completely, utterly lacks them is someone who is an outsider who belongs with the ordinary person. So an outsider means someone here who is outside of Buddhism, outside of the Dhamma. Ordinary person is the Putujana. Putujana means like the many person. Putu, many. Jhana, person. Like the ordinary people, basically. So for those of us who are practicing this path, they might be there slightly, but they will not be firmly established yet. So these spiritual faculties, you can see how they vary here enormously depending on your insight on the path. And this is an important point. Sometimes people think that either you are mindful or you are not mindful, but it's not really as simple as that. Mindfulness itself can take a large number of degrees and varieties depending on how strong these faculties are. So it's not as if you are mindful or not mindful. The more powerful your samadhi is, the more powerful your mindfulness is going to be. And this is why it is not just about being mindful, it is about how that mindfulness is supported by the other factors of the mind. So if you have a state of samadhi, you're going to be far more mindful afterwards than you were before. And this is another reason why samadhi is so useful. Otherwise, if you try to be mindful without samadhi, it's going to be a weak kind of mindfulness, and your ability to attain insight and understanding with weak mindfulness is going to be far less than it is otherwise. So this is an important point to understand, because it means that you kind of start to understand how these faculties are conditioned and how variable they are depending on the situation and how they are conditioned. Anyway, the point of that is just to point out again that you have to be a noble one to really have these faculties, and if you are not, then they're not really going to be there. Just to kind of make the point I was making at the beginning, that the 5 spiritual faculties is the noble path seen from the perspective of the Aryans. So now let's have a look at these things in a little bit more detail, how these things are to be understood in the suttas. And so here we have first of all, this is the analysis of the 5 faculties. And here it says, monks, there are these 5 faculties. And here is where Bhante Sujato has gone wrong. He's not supposed to have monks, he's supposed to have mendicants. So we should kind of remind him of this is where he has. So anyway, so what 5? The faculty of faith, energy, mindfulness, immersion, and wisdom. What is the faculty of faith? It's when a noble disciple has faith in the realized one's awakening. The Blessed One is perfected, a fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy, Sugato, knower of the world, supreme guide for those who wish to train, teacher of gods and humans, awakened, blessed. This is called the faculty of faith. So, faculty of faith, saddha in Pali, and faith in Buddhism is quite a specific thing. It is not the same as faith in many other religions. It's a different kind of idea. There is some overlap, but there's also some important differences in what it actually means. So saddha in Buddhism is really 2 different things coming together here. And one is the confidence aspect, that you are confident in these teachings. So you have learned about Buddhism and you think, yeah, this is right. This is how the world actually works. This is how the mind operates. So you gain confidence in these teachings. It's like almost like an intellectual acceptance, if you like, a sense that this is right, this is correct. And so that is a very important part of faith in Buddhism. And that part is often quite different from faith in other teachings or other religions, where faith is much more purely an emotional thing, purely an assent. You accept something, whether it makes sense or not is kind of irrelevant. You just accept it, and that's the end of the story. But in Buddhism, the fact that it makes sense, that you gain confidence in it because it makes sense, is a very important part of faith. And what that means is that faith, or saddha in Buddhism, is actually just another aspect of wisdom. So you can imagine that the more wisdom you have, the more insight you have into the nature of reality, and the more you can see that this actually fits with the teachings of the Buddha, the more powerful is going to be your confidence, yeah? Because you know, you've seen it for yourself. That's how confidence arises. And because of that, when you become a noble one, when you finally see these teachings fully, when you see the idea of non-self, you penetrate to the full depth of these teachings, that is when your confidence becomes absolutely established, because you have seen exactly what the Buddha has seen. At that point, it becomes unwavering or confirmed confidence. It is confirmed because you know that these teachings are true. So in Buddhism, wisdom and faith, wisdom and saddha actually go together. And saddha at the highest level is the same as direct insight into the teachings. So this is what is meant here when we talk here about faith. We're talking about, because we're talking about the noble ones, we're talking about that confirmed faith, the full faith, that the Buddha was awakened, because you realize the Buddha must have had the same insight that you have, because you have seen, you have seen, and you can recognize that the suttas are describing that same insight that you have had yourself. This is very kind of interesting, isn't it? There is the distinction between faith, or saddha, and wisdom in Buddhism is actually very small. And this is very different from what it is like in other teachings. In Buddhism, faith should make sense. It should be something that is rational. It shouldn't be an irrational kind of faith. It should fit with the facts of life, fit with reality. And if it doesn't, then the faith is problematic. It should not be blind faith. It should not be faith in face of evidence that point in a different direction. It should be reasonable faith. And this is one of the kind of beautiful things about this idea of confidence in the Buddhist teaching, is a sensible kind of confidence. But there is another aspect to saddha in Buddhism, which is more similar to faith in other teachings, and that is the emotional aspect. The idea is that when you have faith and you see what these teachings are like, it gives rise to a sense of uplift, joy. Yeah, wow, I got these teachings. You understand what they are. You understand that they have to do with the very meaning of life. You understand this is about overcoming suffering and finding true happiness in life, something really meaningful and powerful. The teachings are there. You just follow them, practice on them, and you will get there. And you gain this joy and happiness that you are in the presence of something so powerful and so useful. And this is a very important part of the idea of saddha, because if you have faith in the right way, if you understand that you have these teachings that give you access to the very meaning of life, then that emotion is what can then start the meditation practice. This is part and parcel when we talk about giving rise to joy with your mindfulness of breathing. This is often where that joy comes from. This feeling that you are doing something incredibly worthwhile, that you are heading towards something very wonderful and marvelous. That inspiration that you get there, that comes with joy, is what we're trying to access so that it pushes the meditation forward. That is where meditation really starts to happen. And this is a very important, this is something that is talked about in the suttas in so many places. This is called the Unknown Satya, which is often translated as recollection. The recollection is just using your faith, using your confidence in these teachings to give rise to these good qualities of the mind. That is the whole purpose of it. So you use the saddha to kind of give rise to the good qualities, and then that becomes a force in your meditation practice. So very important. Sometimes a nice translation for saddha could be inspiration. Because inspiration often has this double meaning. When you are inspired, you feel uplifted. You feel kind of, you want to get on with things because you're inspired. But inspiration also has an aspect of understanding to it. You are inspired because you understand something, because you have grasped something. So inspiration is not a bad translation for saddha. It kind of bridges the ideas of confidence and faith a little bit. Both confidence and faith are a bit too one-sided, whereas inspiration might be kind of hit the mark quite well. So this is a faith in Buddhism. And so it's different from other kinds of faith, and that's why the limitations of the translation faith. And so what is this faith? And here it can be many different things, but in this particular case, it is focused on the Buddha himself. And the reason why it is focused on the Buddha, because this is kind of the root faith in Buddhism, the most basic kind of faith. The faith in the Dhamma, the faith, other kinds of faith that come from this. This is the most basic one, because if there is a Buddha, then the Dhamma, the Sangha, and all of these other things that arise as a consequence of the existence of a Buddha. So this particular formula that you see here, the Blessed One is perfected, fully awakened, etc., awakened and blessed. This is the standard thing, a standard recitation that we do so often in Buddhism, that many of you will have heard, Itipiso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vijja Charana Sampanno, etc. That one, which is very commonly done, especially in traditional Buddhist countries, but really it is done, these days pretty much done everywhere. And so that is what you see throughout the suttas as the Buddha's way, the Buddha explaining how we should recollect him. Yeah, and this is what you find throughout the sutta. So if the Buddha tells you how we should recollect, make a recollection of the Buddha, this is how you should do it. So for that reason, very useful. So remember, when you chant the Itipiso Bhagava chant, try to understand what is going on. Try to understand what it actually means. Yeah, when you understand what it means, it becomes far more powerful as a consequence. I will go through this in detail later on to show you what it means, but for now I will just pass over it because this is just an initial analysis of the 5 faculties. But there's a couple of things here that are very important. One of the main things that this formula talks about is the insight of the Buddha, his understanding of the world, his full knowledge of happiness and suffering. Yeah, and it is this, the full knowledge of happiness and suffering, that makes the Buddha the one who has the full insight into the meaning of life itself, because the meaning of life revolves around happiness and suffering. That is the driving force that drives us everywhere. So it revolves around that. So the Buddha has full insight into the meaning of life. That is a pretty powerful claim. Yeah, the meaning of life, this kind of amorphous thing that every philosopher and religious person has tried to understand through known history of humanity. Yeah, this extraordinary, this remarkable thing that nobody has really been able to figure out. And after a while, the philosophers, they say, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to put that to one side. I'm going to focus on something that is possible to figure out, because meaning of life can't figure it out. And here comes this one man in the history of humanity who claims to have discovered exactly what nobody else was able to understand. And this person is, of course, the Buddha. Discovery of the meaning of life itself. And this is why this is so extraordinary, why it is so exceptional. And I think if we can kind of make this understood, that this is about the meaning of life, then it really makes the Buddhist teachings exceptionally powerful. Who is not interested in the meaning of life? You can't just throw away the meaning of life and say, yeah, I'm not interested in the meaning of life, I'm going to kind of, do something else instead. I'm going to kind of go and, become a bartender or whatever. I find the meaning of life, for goodness sake. If you found that, you have to commit. There's no choice anymore, because this is obviously, you have found what life is all about. So this is kind of one of those key messages that makes, to my mind anyway, for me, we are all different, but to me, it speaks to me very, very powerfully when I kind of finally grasp what this is about. So this is the first thing, this full insight into the human nature, or the nature of any being, really. This is what gives the Buddha his wisdom. And the second aspect that you see in this formula is the Buddha as a teacher. Because he has that insight, he has this ability to teach. And that is the compassion aspect of the Buddha. Wisdom and compassion coming together. And these are the two things that, at least in this context, come out very clearly. And what also comes out of this is that there is nothing there about supernormal powers. It doesn't say the Buddha is great because he can fly through the air, Maybe he could, but it doesn't kind of say anything about that. In fact, when you read the suttas, there's virtually nowhere does it say does the Buddha talk about himself performing supernormal powers. It just doesn't occur. It just occurs kind of in some of the narrative context sometimes. And even that actually is quite rare, surprisingly rare in the suttas. So there's nothing about that. That is kind of irrelevant. That is not what makes the Buddha great. What makes him great is the two things, his wisdom and his compassion, his ability to teach, his ability to do something fundamental to the human mind, to impart to us the very meaning of life. That is what matters. So we're going to have a look at this in more detail later on, because this is actually it is very profound and very beautiful once you kind of start to get your mind around that. So that is the faculty of faith. And then we have the second faculty, which is the faculty of energy. I will show you later on how these faculties are related to each other, because there is a direct relationship between them as well. And the faculty of energy is described as follows. What is the faculty of energy? It's when a mendicant lives with energy roused up for giving up unskillful qualities and embracing skillful qualities. They are strong, staunchly vigorous, not slacking off when it comes to developing skillful qualities. This is called the faculty of energy. This is very similar to the right effort that we saw before, but here the formula is a little bit more condensed, a little bit less repetitive, a little bit less sleep-inducing than the other one. So it's a bit briefer, which has come in handy. And the idea here is this idea that you are always kind of on the guard for developing wholesome qualities. This is kind of what this is about. And this tells you a lot about the challenge on the spiritual path. The real challenge on the spiritual path is always, continuously, moment for moment, to develop skillful qualities and abandon the bad ones. This is really where the most difficult part of the path is. If you can do that, then eventually when you sit down in your meditation practice, meditation is just going to come to you like that. Actually, maybe not quite just like that, but it's going to be much less effort involved if your mind is incredibly pure already. This is the hardest part of the path, because this goes into every detail of your life, every moment of your life. You should ideally have this awareness in your mind that you want to develop the wholesome and abandon the unwholesome. Once the faith is there, once you have seen, this is what the previous one is about, the faith, once you have knowledge of the Dhamma, and you understand that every time you do an unwholesome act, you're letting yourself down. Every time you don't take the opportunity to do something good, you're also, in a sense, letting yourself down, because you have the opportunity to brighten up your mind, to do something that enhances your meditation practice. So this is one of the biggest challenges on the path, is this moment-to-moment awareness, having such a very powerful understanding of the importance of morality, that it always is at the back of your mind that you should live in the right way. This is kind of what this energy really is about, the energy to develop the wholesome. Then, because of that energy, you are mindful, you have the faculty of mindfulness. And what is that faculty? It's when a noble disciple is mindful. They have the utmost mindfulness and alertness, and they can remember and recall what was said and done a long time ago. This is called the faculty of mindfulness. So here you have this alternative description of mindfulness. Usually it is said just to be the four satipatthanas. Here you have this different way of thinking about it. And this is quite a useful way of thinking about mindfulness, because it shows you that the word sati in Pali has these two different meanings. On the one hand, it is the ability to be aware in the present moment, to be alive to the present. And the other one is the ability to have a good memory. And these two are very closely related to each other. If you are present, if you are strongly present, then your ability, it will make a strong impact on your mind, whatever is happening in the present moment. Because it makes a strong impact in your mind, it is easy to remember later on, especially if you are mindful when you try to remember things, then the memory will come back. So mindfulness has these two functions. It will leave a deep impact on your mind in the present moment, and it will enable you to remember things later on. Yeah, so this is the connection between mindfulness as a state of present moment or of awareness on the one hand, and mindfulness as memory on the other hand, very closely related. And what that means is, it means, for example, we're talking about generosity before. So if you want to be generous in a way that is truly effective and is truly going to affect your practice in a positive way, you want to lay down those traces, that memory of your generosity. You want to make it a powerful memory. So when later on you want to recall it, it comes back much more easily. So when you are generous, this is why we should try to do it mindfully. This is why we should try to do it with joy, because when you have joy, you are naturally mindful. Yeah? So if you do it with joy and mindfulness, it will leave a deep impact on your mind when you do an act of kindness or generosity or whatever it is. And then, because it leaves a deep impact on your mind, you remember it afterwards. It has much more power, and that is when the Chaganusati, the recollection of your generosity, becomes very useful and very powerful, and it becomes something that you take with you into your meditation practice. So this is the faculty of mindfulness here, the ability to bring things to mind. It becomes very useful in meditation. That is why it is one of the faculties here of meditation. And this is why the noble ones, all they have to do is to kind of bring back this memory of things, and bang, they kind of get the energy, they get the joy, they go straight into Samadhi as a consequence. That then is the next faculty here, the faculty of immersion, or the faculty of stillness, if you like, the faculty of Samadhi. And it's when a noble disciple, relying on letting go, gains immersion, gains Samadhi, gains unification of mind. This is called the faculty of immersion. And this is another interesting formula. All of these formulas are quite interesting because they are unusual. And because they are unusual, I think it's quite likely that they may be quite early. Usually things get standardized over time, and initially at the earliest point, usually things are a bit more idiosyncratic. They're not as standardized yet. The later you come into Buddhism, the more standardized things get. There is a book in the Pali scriptures called the Nettipakarana, and the Nettipakarana is a book that shows you how everything in the suttas should be interpreted in terms of standard sets in the suttas. Yeah, it shows you how this process of standardization happens, in a sense. That's quite interesting. So this is kind of a natural propensity or natural inclination of human beings to standardize things so that everything is easily understood. But it also takes away from the diversity. It takes away from the depth if you standardize everything. So every time you see something different is actually quite interesting. And the same thing with this one here. Relying on letting go is vosagga ramanang karitva is the Pali. Is this word vosagga again that we came across before? Vosagga means to relinquish, to give up. Yeah, for example, vosagga rato is someone who delights in relinquishment or giving up. Is someone who likes to be generous. It is used in a very ordinary sense. In the deeper sense, it means to let go of the entire sensory world. And this is what it means here. In fact, it goes even further beyond that. It goes eventually to giving up everything. But here, it very likely refers to the idea of giving up the sensory world. Just as when you are generous, you give up of your the things that you own, the sensory things, that also belongs to the sensory world. Here, you're giving it up much more profoundly. Vosag aramana, having made a foundation through giving up, through letting go. Aramana means like a foundation in the suttas. In later Buddhism, it means object of meditation, but here it means like a foundation. You create a foundation by letting go. And this is this idea of general idea of letting go of the world, of the five senses. Like I spoke about before at length, the idea of seeing the unreliability, the uncertainty, the impermanence, the suffering of that world, how it always lets you down. And the more you contemplate that, and the more you bring also the joy of the spiritual practice together with the letting go of the five sense world, the more you build up this foundation of letting go. And the stronger that foundation is, the more powerful is going to be your ability to attain samadhi. It makes sense, yeah, because it is the five sense world is what stops us from attaining samadhi. So you let that go, the samadhi happens. So this kind of goes together. On the one hand, you gradually let go of the five sense world, it kind of disappears into the background. On the other hand, you build up the positive spiritual qualities. You have to do these things together, because you cannot just give up the five sense world, because you need something else to kind of hold on to in the meantime, something that kind of is meaningful for you. If you just give up the five sense world, you have nothing. Yeah, it's kind of it's like you have emptiness without having any positive input. So you need that positive input to balance out the giving up. So the giving up of the five sense world comes together with the building up of positive spiritual qualities that you then lean on for this practice to work, and that is when samadhi becomes possible. So this just makes the point again that giving up of things is a requirement for that samadhi to happen. You gain samadhi, you gain unification of mind, chit asa ekagata. This is the faculty of immersion. What is the faculty of wisdom? The panya indriya. Wisdom is always panya in Pali. It's related to the word pandita. You know the word pandita, a very kind of common word you hear in Buddhism. In English you have the word pandit. The English word pandit comes from the Indian word pandita. It's one of the words that the British people, they ripped off from the Indians when they went to India, and they took these words. It's interesting, the English language is so complicated because they have taken words from all languages around the world and kind of taken them on board, which actually is quite nice. It's a very flexible language, English. They kind of take them all in, and they take some of these words that they don't have in English. So they took the word pandita and made it into pandit. And these days, the pundits are not what they were in the old days. These are the pundits, they just write newspaper columns, that sort of stuff, you know, they're called pundits. But the real pundits are the pundits, the kind of the wise people of the good old days. These were the real pundits. So these are so this is what we really want. So pandita in Buddhism has a very specific sense, which goes far beyond the kind of so-called worldly wisdom that the pundits have. So what is that wisdom? And here it is described. It's when the noble disciple is wise. Yeah, right, okay. So not all that useful perhaps, but anyway, they have the wisdom of arising and passing away, which is noble, penetrative, and leading to the complete ending of suffering. This is called the faculty of wisdom, the panya indriya. These are the five faculties. So what does this mean, this arising and passing away? What is that all about? And what it is about seeing that everything in the world comes into existence from nothing, and it passes away into nothing. Nothing persists, nothing is there that is inherent to anything. There's no inherence in anything in the whole world. Everything is transient. This is what this means. So this is the insight into the transient nature of all phenomena. Everything in the world has this transient nature. And when you see that fully, that is when you become, this is one of the ways to describe a noble person, that full insight into these things. You become a stream enterer, or you become someone practicing the path to stream entry. This is what this refers to. So this is very profound, yeah? And this is why, and this is equivalent to the insight the Buddha had under the Bodhi tree 2,500 years ago. So it's called penetrative because you penetrate to the reality. Yeah, you penetrate to see things according to reality fully, all the way to the root, to the core. And because of that full understanding of something, then gradually it will take you all the way to the complete end of suffering. It is one of those things in Buddhism that just because you see it once, it doesn't finish off the job. You have to see it many times, again and again and again. And as you do that, gradually your entire mind gets straightened out. Initially you only have the right view, but you still have some defilements kind of lurking in the corners of your mind. Does the mind have corners? I'm not sure, but it's a metaphor, metaphorical corners of the mind. So still lurking in there, so gradually you have to weed out those defilements of the mind. And that is what happens on the path after this. And for that reason, you have that full confidence in the Buddha, because you have seen the same essencelessness of all phenomena that the Buddha saw. So this last one here is the one that kind of goes back to the beginning and supports the full confidence. Yeah, these are very closely related to each other. But it is the insight at the bottom here which is the most important one. The insight, the last one, is the one that upholds all the other ones. It is specifically said so. I don't know why I haven't quoted that sutta in here, but it's specifically said in the sutta that it is the wisdom faculty that upholds the other faculties. Because once you have the wisdom faculty, all the other ones, they exist in dependence on the wisdom. And that is why, as I mentioned before, once the wisdom is there, Samadhi can be expected of someone who is a noble one, because that is what the wisdom faculty does. It upholds all the other faculties. A noble person can be expected to be energetic, to have good mindfulness, to have good samadhi, etc., etc., precisely because that wisdom faculty is there, so you understand what these things are, how they come about, etc. You don't forget about it, and so it is established in your mind. Okay, that is the analysis of these ones. Then we have another short sutta, which is also about analysis. And this is just to show you how the 5 faculties can become standardized down the track. So this is the standardized version of the analysis or the definitions. Mendicants, there are these 5 faculties. What 5? The faculty of faith, faculty of energy, faculty of mindfulness, faculty of samadhi, faculty of wisdom. And where should the faculty of faith be seen? In the 4 factors of stream entry. Where should the faculty of energy be seen? In the 4 right efforts. Faculty of mindfulness should be seen in the 4 kinds of mindfulness meditation, the 4 satipatthanas. Where should the faculty of samadhi be seen? In the 4 jhanas. Where should the faculty of wisdom be seen? In the 4 noble truths. These are the 5 faculties. So here they have used the kind of standardized set that comes later in Buddhism to kind of make it very explicit. It's kind of less interesting, isn't it? Because it's just the standard things that we have seen already. The previous explanation was much more interesting because it has these little quirks to it that brings out the meaning in much more detail. Whereas these here are kind of the standard things that you expect from the Buddhist path. But just very briefly, the 4 factors of stream entry is perhaps the one you might know the least about. What are the 4 factors of stream entry? And these 4 factors are the confirmed confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Yeah, you know what these things are. And the last one is the sila that is beloved by the noble ones, the Aryakanta sila. Akanta means like that is liked or enjoyed by the noble ones. Yeah, the Aryakanta sila, the habits of the noble ones. So you are considered to be complete in virtue when you become a noble one. Yeah, your virtue is complete. It doesn't mean you make no mistakes. You may make mistakes, but you kind of forget about it straight away, and you ask for forgiveness, and you carry on, and you are basically complete as far as virtue is concerned. So those are the 4 factors of stream entry, and the other ones here, you probably know what they are already, and if you don't know, then you can ask this evening, and maybe I can talk about it more then. So let us now have a look at the next sutta. The next sutta is at Apana, and this is a sutta that shows the connection between the 5 spiritual faculties, how they lead, one leading to the next one, all the way down to the end of the path. So, I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying in the land of the Angas, near the Angan town called Apana. Then the Buddha said to Venerable Sariputta, Sariputta, would a noble disciple who is sure and devoted to the realized one have any doubt or uncertainty about the realized one or his instruction? Sure and devoted means pasanna. Pasanna means like having confidence in her. So almost by, or abhipassana, I think it might be here. It almost by definition means that you are a stream entry, yeah, already here. So someone who is devoted and sure, who doesn't have any doubt, would they have any doubt or uncertainty? And of course the answer is no, because you have seen these teachings for yourself. So Venerable Sariputta, he says, Sir, a noble disciple who is sure and devoted to the realized one would have no doubt or uncertainty about the realized one or his instructions. You can expect that the faithful noble disciple will live with energy roused up for the giving up of unskillful qualities and embracing skillful qualities. They are staunch, strong, vigorous, not slacking off when it comes to developing skillful qualities. For their energy is the faculty of energy. So a noble disciple will have no doubt. And there is a sutta somewhere else where the Buddha asked Venerable Sariputta, well, do you have confidence in these teachings? And Sariputta says, no, I don't have any confidence in these teachings. I don't rely on confidence in the Buddha to understand this because I've seen it for myself. Yeah, so he's very kind of straight to the point. He doesn't kind of need the Buddha to know it anymore. He's gone beyond that. So he has become independent in a sense of the Buddha in the teaching. And this is kind of the purpose of being a teacher. The purpose is to get rid of disciples. It's kind of nice, yeah? It's a very different idea of teaching from what you normally think about it. But in Buddhism, the purpose is to get rid of disciples, to make them independent, so they function on their own. So it's interesting. It's a different view of these things than from what you normally might have. So once you have that faith, because you have seen the teachings, because you know that you know what is important to do in life, you know what really matters, you know what is going to give you happiness, instead of having a lot of energy and whatever to kind of work really hard for a company or whatever, or build up your own business, you realize that that is very limited energy. Why do people work really hard with anything in this world? Why is it some people have a lot of energy for their work or for their business or whatever? And the reason is because they feel that they are doing something useful, that they are going somewhere. That is why that energy is there. You're feeling that you're kind of achieving something. Yeah, this is why the energy becomes so strong. And I know a lot of people who have so much energy for their work, yeah, and they're very positive about it. They really enjoy their work. Some people hate their work, some people enjoy it. But those people who enjoy it, they have a lot of positive energy. So if you have a similar kind of idea about the Buddhist teachings, that this is where you really get somewhere, this is where you really build something up, that energy, instead of being channeled into your work or channeled into these other superficial things in life, it gets channeled into that which really gives meaning. Not work, not ordinary work, but a far more profound meaning that has the opportunity to give you far more happiness and overcoming suffering in the long run. So that energy that people often have towards ordinary things get channeled in to something that is far more beneficial. That is how the energy arises, because now you know where true purpose and meaning is to be found in life. The more powerful your confidence is, your faith is, the more powerful the energy will be as a consequence, because it's just natural, because you know what needs to be done in life. And then Venerable Sariputta says you can expect that the faithful and energetic noble disciple will be mindful, with utmost mindfulness and alertness, able to remember and recall what was said and done long ago. For the mindfulness is the faculty of mindfulness. When you have that energy, the energy is what brightens up the mind, which gives gladness to the mind. That gladness and energy together always give rise to mindfulness. The present moment is pleasant. You know what you have to look for in life. Yeah, so you are clear. You're like this kind of. You're like a cat watching the bird, yeah, with kind of full attention on what is going on. In the same way, you're watching your mind, being very careful not to give rise to those unwholesome qualities, taking every opportunity to give rise to wholesome qualities. You have this alertness and clarity about you because you know the importance of this. Mindfulness arises. You can expect that a faithful, energetic, and mindful, noble disciple will, relying on letting go, making a foundation of letting go, gain samadhi, gain unification of mind. For samadhi is the faculty of immersion. When you are mindful, when you have clarity, when you are living well without regret and remorse, then as soon as you sit down in your meditation, you focus on your breath, it's easy. Yeah, you don't have to use any willpower to stay there. The mindfulness is already there. You use a little bit of chanda in the beginning just to keep your mind on the breath, and off. It takes off by itself because all the preliminary things are already in place. Samadhi comes quite naturally here. This is one of the things, again, for the noble disciple. It can be expected that they will gain unification of mind because the other faculties are there. You can expect that a faithful, energetic, mindful, noble disciple who has samadhi will understand this. So this is their faculty of wisdom. And this is quite interesting because it is a different faculty of wisdom than what we have seen so far. Transmigration has no known beginning. No first point is found of sentient beings roaming and transmigrating, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. But when that dark mass of delusion or ignorance fades away and ceases, with nothing left over, that state is peaceful and sublime. That is the stilling of all activities, the letting go of all attachments, the ending of craving, fading away, cessation, extinguishment. For the noble wisdom is the faculty of wisdom. So here, wisdom is defined in yet another way. So far we have seen the wisdom as being seeing the arising and passing away of phenomena. Then we saw wisdom as being the Four Noble Truths. And now it is completely different again. Or is it? Is it really completely different? And actually it is really not. These are just different viewpoints for understanding exactly the same thing. One of the problems with the formulation of the Four Noble Truths is that it can seem very abstract very often, yeah? But this here really puts a lot of meat on those bare bones of the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths, there is suffering, there's the origin of suffering, and after a while you heard it so many times, you don't really know what it means anymore, kind of, yeah, whatever, and you kind of read the next sutta. And this is the problem. It becomes too formulaic. It doesn't really hit home anymore. It doesn't do anything to your heart, doesn't do anything to your confidence. You just say these things. You kind of know it, but you don't really know it. You know what I mean? Sometimes you know things without really knowing them. It's the kind of a superficial knowledge that doesn't hit home. Any real knowledge, any real insight has a very powerful emotional component. Only if it does something to you, if it makes you motivated to act, if it has an emotional impact on you, then is it real insight. The other stuff is just knowledge. It is just, you can parrot out the Four Noble Truths. It doesn't actually have any impact. And what is interesting about this formula, actually, it can, if you look at it carefully, have much more emotional impact. So let's have a look at this. The transmigration has no known beginning. Yeah, transmigration, samsara, the round of birth and death, has no known beginning. It goes back in time. You cannot find a first point. If you go back, if you remember your past lives, this is what the Buddha specifically says. If you go back in time, no first point can ever be found. It just goes on and on and on backwards. And this is kind of the despairing thing about this transmigration, is that actually it doesn't start. Because it doesn't start, it very likely doesn't stop. It just goes on. And when you see this, every life feels a bit like this one. In this life, you probably feel that you have a sense of purpose. Yeah, you're doing something useful. You're going somewhere. Yeah, we all, and of course, it depends. People's feeling of purpose is in different areas. So for many of you, part of that purpose will be a spiritual component to your life. But for many people, there's just the kind of ordinary purpose of life. Having a job, having a family, and all of these kind of things. And when you look at that in the context of the big picture, and you look back, every life seems purposeful. Every life you do, it seems like, yeah, I'm doing something useful. Yeah, I'm getting things done. I'm having a family. And then you look back and you see every life seemed equally purposeful, but you did exactly the same thing. And it didn't get you anywhere. You died and you started from square one and you did do the same thing again. Every time it appears purposeful, but every time it just gets you to exactly the same place as in the previous life. And this is what you see with transmigration. You see this long sequence of lives that look pretty much the same. Yeah, from a kind of bird's eye perspective, they look the same. Even though the content may have been slightly different, they are basically the same. The same kind of driving forces, same kind of craving, the same kind of, roughly the same kind of sequence of things that you do. And you start to understand that this feeling of purpose that you have in this life is complete delusion. It's complete nonsense. Actually, there is no purpose at all, because all you're doing is doing the same thing over and over and over again without any real goal, without actually going somewhere. So this becomes very useful insight, yeah, a very powerful insight. And this is why this insight of past lives is one of the insights, the last insights the Buddha had before his awakening, because that is what turned him away from existence, because he realized how pointless it all is. It seems purposeful when actually it is not. It is a delusion of purpose that keeps on going on in samsara, the delusion that we're actually doing something useful. Yeah, when you're young, you think, yeah, you've got a life in front of me, I'm going to do these things, I'm going to kind of get a good education, and I'm going to kind of have a nice relationship with somebody, get into this wonderful relationship, I'm going to have a nice career, yeah, and do all these purposeful things. And then you come to the end of your life and you start to wonder, well, how purposeful was it actually? Now I have to give everything up. And then, especially when you start to see this viewpoint of transmigration, you really start to question this whole thing, whether there is any purpose there. So there is no known beginning to this transmigration, and that is when things really start to become really crazy. No known beginning. You cannot, perhaps not know whether there is any beginning. You cannot know because you can only go back so far through recollecting the past. That's why I think he says no known beginning there. No first point is found of sentient beings roaming on and transmigrating. Roaming on, yeah, the idea of roaming is such a beautiful word here that really makes this clear. What does it mean to roam? It means to be aimless. It means to be purposeless. It means to kind of wandering around in the forest of samsara, now taking this path, now taking that path, coming back to the point where you started again because you don't know where you're going. It's a random movement, Brownian motion, I think they call it. Brownian motion is kind of molecules moving randomly. So you have this, samsara is an endless Brownian motion that's moving around randomly, not going anywhere. This is one of the things I learned when I went to university. Brownian motion sounds good. It comes, I don't know why it comes to mind, but suddenly just things pop up in your mind randomly. Yeah, more randomness, samsara carrying on. So good mindfulness. Yeah, maybe, possibly. Yeah, that's one possible explanation. Yeah. So. And this is a beautiful metaphor for samsaric existence, the idea of roaming, because actually there is no real purpose to it. You're not actually going anywhere. You're not actually, it feels like you're going somewhere, but you're not. And this is what is so kind of scary and so pushes you off the samsaric existence. So you roam, and while you roam around aimlessly, you transmigrate. Yeah, you go from one life to the next one, hindered by ignorance, because you don't have that view, you don't have that insight, you don't know what is going on, you are deluded, you are blind, you're walking around in the dark, the light bulb is off, and you keep on hitting your head and stubbing your toes. Dukkha, panchakanda dukkha, panchapranakanda dukkha. Yeah, keep on stubbing yourself, and you never really learn, you never know where the light switch is. And one day the Buddha brings the light switch into the world. The Buddha is the eye of the world. He helps you to see The Buddha has seen, and now he gives you the opportunity to see as well. He turns on the light dimly. The initial light is just like reading the suttas and getting a bit of conviction. You become a one-eyed person. You can see with one eye or half an eye. You get a glimpse of light, and then you start practicing, and gradually the light gets turned up. And as you get turned up, you start to see what is there. Gradually, the dimness, the dullness, the darkness, the obscurity of samsara gets abandoned, and you start to see what is going on. Delusion is gradually replaced by insight, and you start to see what is going on. Until one day, bang, you see the whole thing. One day you are like that little chick, the chick in the simile of what awakening is all about, the chick that eventually its claws and its beak, they grow out, they become strong enough, and one day you emerge from that shell. You've always been inside this shell. You have thought that life and existence was of a certain kind, a very limited kind of existence, existence within a shell. And then when your beak and your claws become strong enough, you build up these 5 spiritual faculties strong enough, you can break out of that shell. And suddenly you see outside and you think, wow, this is what it is like. I have been so blind, I've been so deluded. I thought existence was this one little life that I'm working on here. Actually, it is this enormous view outside. When the chick comes out of the shell and it sees everything outside, think of the difference of experience, the difference in perception that you have from staying inside, from seeing the whole world outside instead. It's a massive change in perception, and that is what happens when ignorance gets abandoned and you start to see reality for what it actually is. The first one of the breaking out of the eggshells is understanding rebirth. It's a massive shift in understanding. And this is kind of why it is so incredibly important. It is not a small thing, the idea of rebirth. It's a massive change in how you view existence. Then you have the understanding of karma, which shows you the mechanism, how this whole operates. You understand the mechanism that drives samsaric existence. Another enormous change in perspective. And finally, you have the awakening experience itself. The 3 big insights. If you want to talk about insight, these are the really 3 big ones. Vijja means, comes from vid in Pali, which means understanding, understanding of things. It's related to the English word wit, a person of ready wit. In other words, an intelligent, sharp-minded person. It is this word vijja, Indo-European word, and that is what happens when you get there. So it's kind of scary, this being hindered by ignorance, the walking around in darkness. And that is the first one. The second one is the idea of being fettered by craving. Craving is what ties you down, ties you to samsaric existence, because as long as you crave, you are projecting yourself into the future. This is one of the biggest problems with the sensual world. Whenever we desire things in the sensory existence, the 5 senses, that is the main fetter that ties you to samsaric existence. And it always projects you into the future, because craving is always about the future, projects you into the future, and it keeps that cycle of rebirth going from one life to the next one. You are bound, fettered by craving. Craving is like this chain that ties you to existence. It's a beautiful, another beautiful metaphor for how this samsaric journey works. When that mass of ignorance fades away, you have viraga again, and ceases with nothing left over, that state is peaceful and sublime. Santa Panita. So that when that state, of course, is the state of arahantship, when everything ceases and there's nothing left over. That is peaceful and sublime. So the Buddha doesn't kind of mess around. He doesn't he always understated. Peaceful and sublime. Only when you become an arahant are you peaceful and sublime. Everything else is just is not really up to scratch. So when you get your question and say, "Oh, I was so peaceful in my meditation," actually, from this perspective, probably you were peaceful compared to what you've been before, but not compared to the kind of highest peacefulness that we have in the suttas. And then it says that, so that state is, this is what that state is, the stilling of all activities, the letting go of all attachments, the ending of craving, fading away, cessation and extinguishment. The stilling of all activities, sabba sankhara samatha. The word samatha again, calm, stilling. Sankhara is the will that drives rebirth. Not all will, but the will, specific will that looks into the future and tries to establish things in the future through craving. That particular will is completely subsided. Of course, there's still some will because the arahant still moves in the world, but there's no will that tries to kind of reach goals in the future anymore. That will has gone. That is what the stilling of all sankharas refer to here. Letting go of all attachments, sub-upadi, patinisaga, letting go. Upadi is the anything in the world that you can attach to, anything you think you own, including the most personal things like the five khandhas, your own will, your own consciousness, all of that is included in that. You let go of all of that, no more attachment to it. You just live on and allow these things to express themselves as they want. The ending of craving, tanhakaya, no more craving, no more desire for anything, because you understand that that desire was so misplaced in the first place. There's nothing to desire in this world. Everything is just letting go. Fading away, viraga, also just the end of craving, similar kind of thing. Cessation, the end of craving. Extinguishment, nibbana. It is very good to translate nibbana as extinguishment, because that is what it means in the ancient Indian context. What is extinguished is craving. Craving is what is extinguished, as are the defilements of the mind and suffering and all of that. That is what it refers to in this context. So you have become an arahant at this particular point. For the noble wisdom is the faculty of wisdom. So that is the faculty of wisdom seen from a slightly different perspective. It is actually very closely related to the Four Noble Truths. So for example, you have transmigration has no known beginning. Well, that's dukkha, that's the first one, suffering. The craving that is talked about here is the craving of the second noble truth, that you're fettered by craving. Craving is what keeps you in samsaric existence. And then the cessation of that ignorance and craving, that is the achievement of Nibbana itself. It is equivalent to the third noble truth. And then the path is somehow implied in all of that. So they're all very closely related to each other. They just bring out different aspects, different viewpoints of these Four Noble Truths. So I better stop there, so we'll finish off this last couple of paragraphs this afternoon. So that is all for now. We'll see you back again at 3 p.m. this afternoon.